In this video, we're going to talk about using the web application template to compare levels between your applications, meaning the development and production levels, for example, to see which files are missing from one level or the other, or which files have been modified that need to be copied over from one file to the other. Go ahead and show you my setup here under my web folder. And right now, I only have one copy of the template called apptemplate_dev. So let's go ahead and make another version so we have something to compare to. So I'm just going to copy over this folder here, and let's go ahead and rename it to apptemplate_prod. Now in your situation, you may have development and production on two different completely servers, maybe thousands of miles apart. That does not matter. In my scenario, I'm just going to pretend that there are two servers here, and we're going to use these two as an example. But in order to compare, some of them have to be different. So right now, just copy these over so nothing's different. So let's go ahead and go into production and modify some files here. For example, let's copy shared functions, maybe copy startup, maybe go into files. Let's say if I go into debug, and all I'm going to do is just copy a bunch of text here and paste it a few times just to make sure the file is a little bit different in size. Alright, so there we go. We got our dev level, our production level, and we know production has a couple of new files that dev doesn't have, and it has a modified file that dev has, but it's in different file size. So let's go into admin tools. I'll go to mine is 127.001 apptemplate_dev admin. There again, your URL is going to be completely different. Just find your admin tools. And it doesn't matter if you're in dev or production. Since we're comparing the two folders, you can do this in each of the other tools, since we're going to go that direction. So let's go ahead and log in here, go up to maintenance, compare application levels, and you'll see right here it's asking us for a couple of URLs. The first one it's asking for is the development URL. Now I just happen to be working in my development admin panel, so I can actually click the start app folder here, and right up there in the URL is the URL it's looking for. It's looking for your application index.php, not the admin tools index.php file, but the root directory index.php file. So I'll go ahead and paste that in as my dev one. And my production level just happens to be the same path except for _prod is the level. Your URLs may be completely different than each other. All depends on your situation. So I'll click Save Refresh, and there we go. It's already compared the two different levels together. For example, look right here on the top, it says missing files. It found two files that were in production, meaning they're not found in development level. And they just happen to be those two files we just copied over a few seconds ago. So if I wanted to synchronize these, I would copy the two files from production and make sure they're in our development level. Down here under file differences, there's only one file that's found different, and that's code debug. That's because we actually copied and pasted a few lines of text. And you can see the development size is 6K, the production size is 7K. But it also monitors the modified date, and it shows you anything in red here as being different. So even though they may have been the same file size, that would have been white if that was the situation. You'd see the modified date here in red. One of these is going to be in red, or both of them are in red. And you can actually filter it right here between both date and size if your list is pretty long. Now one thing to notice here is our production date is newer than our development date. That should not be the case in most situations. That means somebody was developing in production and not doing it the proper way, where they should have been developing at development level. Once it's working there, then they move the file over production. You know why the situation here exists is because I just did some product modification files for this video example. But this could be a great indicator telling you, hey, somebody, one of your coworkers, or maybe yourself, may have been doing production work in production instead of the flow between dev and production. So watch out for those dates. Check them before you do anything. Now if I wanted to sync these up, you would simply just open each of these folders. For example, open that folder in here. Let's go ahead and go back to that web folder and open production here. And you would just figure out which files I need to drag and drop into each folder to make sure they're synced. Now at first I thought about creating some tools with some nice checkboxes next to it, allowing you to sync between the two. And I decided against that mainly for security reasons. In order to compare the levels, especially across servers, I did have to create a special file for giving the modified and the date of the file. That's not insecure, because if a hacker got that information about your modified date and file size, they can't do anything with it. But in order to actually copy files, then you have to do FTP or create some kind of backdoor mechanism to actually synchronize the two for it. So I just opted not to do that for mainly security reasons. You get to choose which best way for your scenario is the most secure. If you want to do FTP, if they're just on your network and you want to open the two files and copy and paste over, you can do that. Yes, do I wish that feature was in there? I definitely do, but after thinking of it really hard, I decided not to go into that. Let me go ahead and show you one other advanced technique on this option is, for example, let's say we had a file in production or in dev, but we know it's not going to exist on the other level, and it keeps showing up on this list. We want this list to be as clear as possible when we think our production and development levels should be in sync. But these files that we know exist 100% in dev only and never in production, for example, always show up in this list. I can show you how to ignore those files. So I'm going to, for example, let's ignore this startup copy file. I'll go ahead and copy the file name to my clipboard. And let's go to our dev level here, since I'm working in dev admin tools, and we'll go to the admin folder, and you'll find a file called compare levels. Let's go ahead and edit that. And right here at the top, you'll find this add file names to ignore here. Simply just put a comma at the end of the last one, and then put your file name in string format right there. And that's it. You just save that. We'll go back and refresh our compare tool, and you notice that file has now disappeared from the list. Now if you ever do add a production, you have to remember to take it out of that ignore list, and if you have a file in production that should be there and should not be in dev, and you're using the compare level in dev, you got to make sure you go to the compare levels file in the level that you want to ignore it on. So this maybe need to be copied in both places. And that's pretty much it for the file comparison. There is one other feature here that you might see is the modified in the last 7 days, and that kind of gives you a glimpse of any file that's been touched recently. Since these are fresh copies for this video's sake, every single file from development and production shows up here. But if we waited 7 days and I showed you this list again, it'd pretty much be empty unless I touched a file. But it gives you a great glimpse of who's working on what and how soon. So you might want to go over and question somebody, a coworker, if you see a file here that you just wanted to edit yourself, and you might have some communication about what you're about to do, and step on each other's toes or anything like that. I hope you enjoy this tool here, and hopefully you get some use out of it. And happy coding.